So Esteban, thank you very much indeed for coming along to the stand and supporting FIVA at the Goodwood Revival. Obviously the premier historic motor racing event in the world. Outside of the very high profile events, do you have any connection or interest yourself in preservation of historic vehicles?
Yes, I do. I mean, I have a huge appreciation for classic cars. To be very honest and very open, I'm not, an expert yet. I've been learning a lot, and one of the events that has gotten me closer to classic cars, it's actually the Revival. The Revival, the members meeting, of course the Festival of Speed. And it's really something that I truly enjoy, and it has so much heritage, and getting connected to the classic cars and the art behind the designs and the whole concept is so nice. And yeah, I mean, as a young person, I'm of course getting to know more and more.
So is there a big heritage scene back in Mexico? Are there many classic cars and things that were stored on the road back home?
Not as much as here, of course, but there is some great collections that we have in Mexico. Personally, I haven't started my collection yet. I have my racing cars, but in terms of classics, I'm going to start pretty soon.
Well, it's good to hear you're going to start a classic car collection. Yeah, we always like to hear that. But from your generation, and it is an area that's under threat to an extent, because people of your age maybe have less interest in cars and less interest in historic cars. Any ideas on how we can promote that and can encourage people of your age to generate that interest in classic cars?
Well, I think bringing and inviting more people, young people, to these events, it's the key. And in order to let's say to motivate them to come, of course, the more young generation of drivers we get involved, the more interest there will be from younger guys. So I try to give, let's say, from my side, put my, let's say, my small part to make that happen. And of course sharing all the stories and sharing through the communication channels that today we have, the passion that I have for classic cars. I've heard more and more interest, and I'm sure that it can be achieved, and younger people enjoying this type of events, and also specifically classic cars and the beauty behind that. Because today every modern car, it's now like of course it's great, and they're new and great designs, but the engines are not the same. It's not the same experience when you drive them. Driving a classic car is really special.
So you're still involved with Mercedes, still contracted to Mercedes. So we have an event coming up at Brooklands next year about what's called the Gordon Bennett Trophy, which in Mercedes took place. It was 1903, so well over 100 years ago. So in your work with Mercedes, is there any connection with the heritage of Mercedes and the earlier cars that Mercedes had?
Not the earlier cars, more in the Formula One field. I do most of the events where we bring the Formula One cars for show runs, but of course it's more modern. But I'm actually now working on a project to do the Carrera Panamericana in Mexico next year with a Mercedes car.
What era of Mercedes?
We're still looking into it, but it's definitely going to be an SL, proper car. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm trying to push and make it happen, as well as the Mille Miglia. It's a race that I would like to do.
Yeah, so obviously Mercedes has a terrific history. So are you interested in getting more involved in the history of Mercedes and the cars that they raced through the 40s and 50s?
Of course I am. I am in love with these cars, and it's as much as I don't really, I'm not really very knowledgeable about them yet. I've been learning a lot, and it's really passionate about it.
Well, I'm encouraged by your word yet. You haven't started your collection yet, and you haven't acquired all the knowledge yet, but it's encouraging to know that it's very much in the pipeline. So, Esteban, thanks very much again for your support for FIVA, and thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you, and thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to support.